Welcome, day ones. It is another great week, and I am super excited to have you here. Welcome to Off the Cuffs with my day ones, the official podcast presented to you by Day Ones Production Group. And of course, my name is Antonia Lynch, aka Teacher Tony, and I will be your host for this ride. And of course, I'm always excited and happy to be able to discuss with my day ones, my educators, you educators. I salute you, all of you out there. We're excited this week to continue the conversation and not only continue the conversation, but to continue to welcome you to the Global Educators Movement. Here at Day Ones, we are working to change the vision in education, one pillar at a time. And we can only do it with you and with your support. So, of course, we want you to get involved, get prepared, uncuff yourself, let go of the norms, let go of the stigmas that you have about education or educators, and let's get into this candid talk. Today, we're ready to let it go, and we're going to come back to that conversation we had last week about why are we teaching? And today we have a special guest educator, Braxton Dunmore. And I know I'm excited to have him here with us today. Braxton, how are you?
I'm well. Can't complain.
I'm so excited that you're here and a part of this whole entire movement. It is amazing to have you here. Thank you for coming and being a part. You're looking good, black man. You're looking good. Okay.
Appreciate myself. Thank you.
So I'm so excited to talk to you guys and to talk with you educators about why we educators wanted to be educators. It's super important that we talk about it. So many of us are finding that across the news or in media all over, we're seeing the decline of educators. And we really want to rekindle the spirit, to reminisce on the time, when we actually thought about being an educator. So our questions, of course, for today, one, we're going to be talking about why are we teachers? What led us to teaching? The route that we might have taken, whether traditional or non-traditional educational routes, and pretty much has working in education met our expectations. It is important that we talk about it because after we think about and reminisce about the good things that led us here, it's also important to think about what's continuing to push us or even maybe derailing us. And so it's important that we share that. Last week, I talked personally about my own experience and my fascination with Indiana Jones and wanting to be Dr. Jones. But this week, it's time that we share out and dig into other educators, talk to other educators, so that you can hear from them and understand what led them to education. And so, without further ado, we're going to be talking with educator Braxton Dunmore. So, Mr. Dunmore, I mean, besides I just want to say before you even start, you just sharing your voice and experience and being vulnerable and open on this podcast is just so awesome. And I thank you. And any educator who comes, it is hard to get in front of the camera and talk because we're hindered so much and we feel like we're slighted or we don't have the opportunity or the platform. So I want you to understand this place is for you. And I thank you so much. And we here at Day Ones, we thank you for sharing. And so Braxton, let's get into it. Like really and truly, what led you to get into education, to want to be a teacher?
It's a good question. With a very complex answer. I won't say complex, but it's very it gets deep, so to speak. So I always tell people I come from a family of teachers and preachers on my mom's side, like through and through, like a lot, like a cornucopia
A lot
of teachers and a cornucopia of preachers. That's really all I saw growing up. And on a deeper level, just me as a black man, and not a black man, but a black boy, like as a young boy. I can't even say adolescent because adolescence really starts like age 9, 10. So I mean, I guess if you want to be technical, I'll say early adolescence. My fifth grade teacher, Mr. Sutton, made a huge impact on my life in a way that beforehand no one else had. And I love my father, but no one introduced me to history in a way that he had. And
Mm.
both keep in mind, both my parents introduced me to Black history at a young age. That's
Mm-hmm.
why I won the Black Bowl in sixth grade. I beat the 7th and 8th graders. I beat the older kids when I went to school on
Okay.
in a Black history trivia. So my parents, I don't want to take anything away from my parents. They introduced me to Black history at a young age. But the way that
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Sun introduced me to world history and revolutionary topics about self awareness and just seeing the way he dressed, he came in a suit every day, you know.
Mm.
And you read
Okay.
before, you see, I did kind of the same thing. I didn't come in a
Yeah.
suit every day, but I was,
You were polished. You were definitely
yeah, I was like,
polished. Yeah.
I got to at least have a polo on, if nothing else. So
Uh-huh.
and khaki. So that seeing that the visual, right, the visual of a man taking his job that seriously, um, just from the visual standpoint, I saw my dad go to work in a suit every day,
Mm-hmm.
or at least with a shirt and tie, but he had an office job. Whereas the other black male teachers, and it's a really blessing I even had that many black men as teachers at my school in the first place,
Yes.
because the older I
Yeah, it
get, I
is.
see so often fellow millennials, like fellow like 80s and 90s babies. A huge recurrent theme on social media right now is like, how old were you when you saw your first black male teacher? That's like a big question now. Like, oh, and I keep seeing
It's
it pop up
true.
and go viral over and over and over again. It goes viral all the time, and people are answering. Not include my gym teacher, high school, high school, high school, high school. Some people saying college. I'm like, God dang. And I
It's
had I
true.
had like six or eight. I don't think it was more than eight, but I literally had like eight male teachers at Overlook Elementary, black male teachers.
Mm.
Now
Wow.
I didn't take all their courses, but I'm saying like they were in the school teaching third grade, fourth grade, fifth grade.
Like the
And my,
visual of them.
right. And my mom was there too. My mom taught the school. They thought, man, I used to think that I got good grades. My mom, I'm like, yeah, I actually do my work. Actually,
So stop.
that was how I went to middle school so I could prove myself. Like I'm smart for real, y'all. But your mom was there. She teaches
Uh-huh.
third grade as well. But just the visuals of that many black men caring about us and our future. These little
Mm.
black children in this working class environment, you know what I'm saying, aka the hood. And so like that visual of Mr. Sutton, fifth grade, is what the first thing that got my wheels turning. Not even going
Wow.
with my mom as a teacher, but like that moment. And then the deeper I got into like becoming Afrocentric in middle school, reading all these history books and reading about world history, I'm thinking to myself, man, I'm getting a really good understanding of who I am at 12 years old. So I'm studying
Mm-hmm.
African history, I'm studying European history, I'm studying everything. And I'm like, man, I feel like people would carry themselves differently if they knew the greatness we came from. And I said to myself, well,
Mm-hmm.
that's my job when I become an adult. It's to get my doctorate. That ain't happen, but to get my doctorate in history and then go back and then teach either middle school or elementary school. That's
Mm.
what I did. I didn't wait to get a master's or a doctorate or anything. I just went straight into it once I finished at Morehouse, and the rest is history. That was always
Wow.
the goal. Yeah, my
Well,
bachelor's in history.
but that is it's actually interesting to hear that from such an early age. You had one that you had. I'm going to salute any of the all the black teachers, all the black male teachers that were there and present. I salute you guys because when I thought of that, when I heard you say that, and I had to think to myself, the first black male teacher, and actually we didn't even have a black male gym teacher. So the black
Hey,
male teacher, I remember, I think he was maybe my eighth grade social studies teacher, maybe. I think his name was
okay.
Mr. Henry. Mr. Henry, wherever you are from number three school. Mr. Henry, I would believe, was my only experience with a black male teacher. And it was very limited because I was
Whoa,
a troubled kid. So
got you.
I was like,
You got a
I'm
conversation
lost
before.
already. Like, no. So, but no, seriously, like, but that was the only one I can think of. But when you said that, I really thought to myself, like, wait, hold on. How lucky you were, though, to have that inspiration so early, but then also to let it feed you. So not only did you have this environment that really that nourished you, that really built up this passion, but so what did you do? What was the next step? What was the route? Did you actually go straight into the collegiate field? Did you go straight into more? Because I know you went to Morehouse. He's a Morehouse man.
I am.
So did you go straight in? What was your actual route for getting into education?
yeah. So fun thing is, again, I didn't major in education. I majored in history. So my route was, I won't say non-traditional, but untraditional, and that's because I
Mm-hmm.
love prefixes and suffixes. So there is a difference. It was untraditional in the sense that I came home from college. I'm like, okay, everyone knows, or at least everyone at Morehouse knew, that if you majored in history, there were really only two routes you could go. And of course,
Mm-hmm.
now that I'm older, sky's the limit. Especially me as an optimist, I'm a natural optimist. Like, the sky's the limit. But there are two traditional routes that everyone knew that if you major in history, you're going to take. You're going into
Mm-hmm.
law, or you're going to education. Whether you're studying to be a college professor, or you want to teach at the at the primary or secondary level. And I mean, I already know I wanted to teach anyways. I was like, okay, cool. But I was like, dag, I really got this for a degree to like master this subject that I'm so passionate about, but I didn't take time to get certified. I know I need that.
Mm,
And so I'm
yeah.
scrambling to get certified and take the right tests and whatnot. And then my neighbor, who saw me grow up, literally from the moment we moved from DC to Suitland, and Mr. Young, Mr. Benjamin Young, and he said, "What's Braxton doing out of his home from school?" He talked to my mother,
Mm.
and she was like, "He's actually looking for."
Inquiring minds.
Yeah, she was exactly. Carl wants to know, and she was like, he's looking around, he's looking for employment, he's looking at a few options." And Miss Young was like, "Has he ever thought about teaching?" And she was like, "Yeah, it's actually really what he wants to do. Like, that's his thing." And she's like, "He always had experience with that." And she was like, "Why do you ask?" And he was like, "Well, we use a paraprofessional in display classrooms." So for context, Mr. Young was a well, not was, he still is. He always says he's retiring. We'll see if I talked to him like 2 days ago. He said he was retiring. I'll believe it when I
Mm.
see it. But
Right.
he is right. But he is a special education coordinator. And at the
Mm-hmm.
time, he was the SPED coordinator in
Mm.
DC public school system. So that's where I started off. 22 year old, fresh out of Morehouse. Um, Taught there for 2 years. That was quite the experience. Um,
Mm.
in many different ways.
Well, I mean, of course. Well, I mean, for those of us who have taught in any urban environment, any urban settings, there's a lot of, there's definitely, especially in the nation's capital, there's a lot of interesting opportunities for you, right? But
Right.
what I appreciate was that you have had people along the way in your corner pushing you along. Like, it wasn't just, yes, I have the passion to teach. I went into history because that's truly my love, right? And even with this, in a sense, it is a pessimistic view of you can only be this or that with history. Because with
Right.
history, it's you really truly can do so much with it. It's very vast, right? But
Exactly.
yes, as an educator, taking history and taking people on the ride through history is what's really missing sometimes as a history teacher, because it seems, it's almost like the boring stuff. Like, yeah, I don't want to hear about this the first thing they say, but it's actually
Right.
interesting and very in depth. And the kids who get a great teacher at doing it absolutely love it. And so to hear that you loved history, you had this experience with history early on, someone built you, someone gave you that experience, and every step along the way, even though there was some pessimistic views, even though it wasn't necessarily the traditional route to education, it wasn't like elementary ed or height, whatever, it was
Mm.
still the route you took, and you had a lot of great people pulling you and inspiring you along the way. So I got to give kudos to that. And that's what I think people forget about educators. People who are in the field of in the field of education constantly are finding ways to feed into people and to set examples and to be that spark of interest. Like the fact that he came right to your mom, hey mama, what is your son doing? And gave you
Right.
that opportunity is a beautiful thing. It is a beautiful thing. So now you left Morehouse, you're a history buff, history
Mm.
major, you leave Morehouse. Now you're here in DC working. You're in the urban area of DC working in a middle school.
Yeah.
So now that and then of course, you and I, we've met because you went from middle school to an elementary school and we,
Right.
but
Which
now
was
that you've been
important.
in, which was very important because
Yeah.
working in the elementary setting really is quite different from the middle school setting because of the mentality of the children and that
Right.
social emotional space that they're in. And I mean, that's a whole
Exactly.
nother episode. It is a whole nother episode we
Yeah.
can talk about,
What I would say
but
though, sis, if you allow me
no,
real
go
quick,
ahead. Jump in, Bo. Jump in.
I think that's part of why a lot of um black men who do have a desire to teach don't teach elementary school. And I know because I've talked to other brothers who are teachers, and not just other brothers, adults in general. A lot of adults don't have patience for that age group
Mm,
for whatever reason. I don't know if it's too much whining or whatnot. And I don't mean fifth grade when you and I were co-teaching. I mean like kindergarten, like what I started off at with Houston. But that was important for me to make that transition because it showed me just how I'm not even gonna say fatherly, but just how grandfatherly I really am. Because even when I was in middle school myself, one of my nicknames was Grandpa, and like it
mm-hmm,
also showed me because I'm very grandfatherly. I thought I didn't love education. I thought that I was in the wrong place, but I was just in the wrong space. And teaching middle
mm.
school was great, but it also again showed me that I don't have a lot of tolerance for foolishness. Like, and because now at this age, at this I don't, and at this age of like 31, it's like, and because I've taught everything, I've taught elementary, middle, and high school. I really just don't have
Mm-hmm.
tolerance for like them early adolescent years. I don't. But I was loved at
It's
Kelly Moses.
rough.
I was loved. I had a lot of guidance. I had a lot of support from my coworkers.
Yeah.
Because I was one of the black men. I was young. You know what I mean? And
Mm-hmm.
it was enough of us because it was me, Miss Tumani, Principal Zaki, Vice Principal Hobbs. He's a principal now, but at a different
Yeah.
at a different school. But and
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Hobbs, he knew my cousin Evan because they were teaching Sulin
Mm-hmm.
together. So I had a lot of support. But I would go home, but like, matter of fact, that's when I discovered I had high blood pressure my second year. And my doctor's like, you eat
Wow.
healthy, you work out. I can't figure out what's going on. Cholesterol is good, everything's good. And he was like, what runs your family, right? Your father has it? Like, yeah. He said, okay, it's stress. He said, man, them kids. I said, I know, but I
Yes.
want to get back. You know what I'm saying? And plus, again, my mom is from that neighborhood. Well, not Deanwood, but she's from Bennett Heights. So that was rough teaching middle school in the neighborhood. I'm doing a good job, but it's like I get home stressed. I'm the only person breaking up fights because the security guards are like, for one, I don't want to get hurt, and I understand that because I'm a big supporter of women. I listen to women's
Mm-hmm.
needs, and like, who wants to get hurt between two huge? When I say huge, I mean like
Huge
and
middle
taller
schoolers.
than me,
Huge. Exactly.
6'2",
Huge.
6'3", 240 pounds,
Yes.
and my
Big
little
boys.
160 pound self jump in the middle of it. And the span coordinator, Mrs. I was like, Mr. Dunmore, you don't have to do that. And if you get hurt, they're not gonna pay for you. I said, well, somebody gotta break them up, man.
We just sit and watch. Like it's not. No. Sit down. But you know what though? It's funny because the mentality for working in a middle school, and
Mhm.
I think that's where a lot of people what they don't remember or what they don't understand if you've never worked across grade levels and
Yeah,
or the levels of growth in children, right? And so
right.
when you're working with children who are younger and smaller, they're still trying to find that independence. They're still in need. They're still dealing with a lot of getting to know themselves. And
Yeah, they are.
when you get to that 12, 13, 14.
Like, they don't know everything.
Now they think they know the whole world, and it's like, really, we're like, baby, stop.
Right,
No, the world it didn't start today, but come
right.
on, I need you to get on board. Like, and then so it's dealing with middle schoolers and dealing with elementary. Like, this is a whole nother podcast we're talking about a little later on. Because so I'm going to bring you
For
back
sure,
so
for
we
sure.
can talk about how the true differences in working in different age levels. And
Mhm.
some of us can work very well with older children because we
Right.
understand, we relate, we find ways to connect.
Hmm.
And then there's
Right.
some of us who do not. There's some educators who work very well with younger children, and especially in a primary setting, they do a very
Mhm.
good job. That K-2 bracket, oh, some teachers just cannot move from out of it, right? They just no,
That's my
this is
favorite
where I
bracket,
need to
personally.
be.
Yeah,
Right. Yes, you really do.
yeah.
And so it takes a lot in from both ends, but you also have to be vested in it. So the fact that you
Right.
actually you're one teacher I know that actually has had that experience of working across grade bands and working across ability levels, because not only
Right.
did you work with middle school and within the SPED or special education department, but you've also worked with just traditional students as well, students in fifth grade, third grade. I mean, you were working with students from just the entire spectrum. It didn't
Right.
matter where
And
they
both
were from.
schools.
And I thought that that meant a lot, because there are some teachers who have never worked in an inclusion classroom. In an inclusion classroom, for anybody who's listening and do not understand, that's a classroom where all ability levels meet. And so there's teachers who've never worked in an inclusion classroom or a full special education classroom either. And so the fact that you not only have worked with multiple age groups and you've worked with multiple ability levels, I mean, you have to commend yourself and like pat yourself on the back, and you survived, baby. Like, you survived, you know. Because it's not everybody can do that. But this is the hard question, and this is where we jump
Okay.
into the the reality of where we are now. You've had this
Okay.
dream, you wanted to get into history, you went to college, that's what you did, you became
Mm.
an educator. So, but are you happy with being an educator? Has it met your expectations? Are you still that excitement for teaching, that thrill for being in a classroom, is it still there? Is it still firing through your bones?
Yeah. You know what's funny, and I'll try and keep it brief. Um, it is still there, but I'm not in education anymore. But I know it's still there because it's recently a Saturday for the job I work now. I had to go out into the field. Wait, no, that wasn't Saturday. I mean, it was Saturday, but the day that this happened was actually Tuesday of last week. And I'm talking to one of the citizens of Washington D.C., telling about the lead-free DC program, DC Water. I work with DC Water now, so I just switched government agencies from DCPS, DC Public School System, to DC Water. And I just hear
Mm-hmm.
kids cross the street. It's a primary school, um, and they were just having recess. And I thought to myself, man, I really miss being in the class. But I turned my coworker right then and there, right on the porch, and I said, "See, that was the best part of the day." And I changed. And I said, "Actually, no, maybe it was nap time when they laid them hind parts down."
Listen, go
They saw early
you
childhood education. Can you tell? That was most of my career, sis. You know what I mean? I loved it. I loved it. I really did. Like K through 2 is my niche. Like, bro, that's my niche right there. Like, that's my niche. Like,
yeah. But
but
I mean, but K
so
to
the
two is a
honest my
good
bones
grade.
is just that my health issues. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, K to two is
Yeah, I was about
good.
to say
No, go ahead.
and I already said to you all earlier, to you and the audience, that I have high blood pressure, and yeah, when I caught COVID in 2020 and literally almost lost my life.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, I'm glad it happened in the summertime, so the kids have to see me go through that, because they already seen me have health issues before with my blood pressure. But I'm glad they didn't to hear about me
Mm-hmm.
going through that, and I just had to leave. I'm sorry, I'm choked up. I didn't want to leave.
I know, I
I didn't want
know,
to leave.
because it's not easy when you've invested so much, especially when it's been a dream for so long, right? It's like literally been a dream for so long, and you're faced with life or death, and that moment you have to make a choice. And the stress and I have to say this, and I have to be very clear about the stress in education. The stress in education is real. And so if you do have high blood pressure or health issues in general, the stress from education can add to it tremendously. And it's not an easy road. It's not like an easy, oh, well, you change schools. No, it's not that easy. Or change positions. No, it's not that easy, because the stress of education is encompassing of a lot of the community situations, the family situation, and just the overall structure of a school, the politics involved. A lot of those things play such a huge role into the added stress that educators face. And I remember there's these times where I too was sick, like, and I'm just like trying to push through my life, like trying to push through to
Right.
still just be the teacher, just to be in the classroom with the kids. It was said to me by another educator who hopefully I'll get on one of these days, and she was like, if you die today, they will replace you tomorrow. So do not kill yourself for the job. You have to take care of yourself. You have to be mindful of yourself, but you have to focus on your health because that's the most important. Your health is your wealth. And so I remember days, I remember when we worked together, days where you were not feeling well, where you had, we're nobody, we don't want anybody to see how bad you were, how bad you felt. We wanted to just make sure you were okay and just
Right.
pray for you, just be there for you, support you in whatever way we could. And so to have to actually leave, I know that can be very, very emotional and very sad because
I think
who wants to leave?
it's just I'm trying to break down on this platform, but the timing, like I got sick like a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks after my birthday. And my birthday's in August for context. And you gotta understand the school year starts at the end of August. So I'm getting off of quarantine in like August 22nd, and the school year's about to start next week. I'm having all this anxiety. Like I almost lost my life, and my lungs haven't returned back to normal yet. They didn't return back to
Mm.
normal until October of 2020. So, and I didn't know when they were going to return back to normal in the moment. So even making that phone call, and then like Dunmore, because for further context, I was in a master's program, and with the master's program, first year you're co-teaching, and the second year you're a lead teacher, and I'm just
Mm-hmm.
having paranoia. I'm not a scary person. I'm sorry, I'm speaking slang. I'm not a easily
No,
not
do
an
your
easily
thing.
scared person. I don't scare easily. I don't deal with a lot of
No.
anxiety like that. Now, and for those who do, I'm close to a lot of people who do it. I don't want to trivialize that, but I'm not an anxious person, and I was having paranoia about the idea of it being in the
Wow.
classroom because I'm thinking, well, okay, my health. But
Yeah.
then, but then I'm also like, I don't know anything else besides knowing how to make music. You know what I'm saying? That's cool and all, but I'm like, I have bills for one, and for two,
Mm-hmm.
it's not just giving back; it's also what the kids gave me. It's what my coworkers gave me.
Yeah.
Like, I can definitely be a loner, since but I'm not even a loner for real. I'm not even introverted. I'm absolutely a people person. I'm absolutely
You
extroverted.
are.
Yeah, I'm Myers Briggs personality, ENFP, just like Will Smith and Robin Williams and Tupac. So I tend to speak, I'm an extrovert, but I still like to recharge, have my alone time. But I'm still an extrovert, and like just being around the pureness of someone not even
Yeah.
asking nothing from you, but they just want to learn from you and see what you have. That's the thing about. See, that's what I'm saying. You can tell I love elementary because you're not gonna get that in middle
Yeah.
school.
No, not in middle
Just
school. No, in middle school,
not
they
not
don't
to
want to
that
know
level.
nothing.
Not
You
to that
don't know
level. Not to
nothing.
that level.
You
You
don't
know
know
what I
nothing.
mean? And just to clarify for the honest, I didn't hate teaching middle school. If on a scale of 1 to 10, very quickly, elementary was like 100, and then middle school was like a
Yeah.
7 out of 10. And
Yeah,
7 out of 10 is not
definitely.
bad. You know what I'm saying? But it's not close to 100 out of 10.
It's
You know what I mean?
not.
Like
It's
I'm
not.
teaching elementary 10 times over. You know what I mean? And I really
Yes,
found my
I would
niche also.
agree.
Yeah, and
I would
also
agree.
being in the CES classroom for children who are on the autism spectrum. That I really found my calling at Houston Elementary because when I was teaching SPED at the middle school level, my first school year I was in the level for the intellectually disabled,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then towards the end of that year, they had me subbing in the behavior support classroom, and I
Mm-hmm.
did a really good job in that classroom because I used to have anger issues when I was in middle school. Now, obviously, I didn't have a disability. I won't say obviously, but I'm saying I didn't have a disability. I was in the talent
Mm-hmm.
gifted programs, but I had severe anger issues in middle school. It
Mm-hmm.
was bad, and so because I know how to control my own anger, even as an adult, I I thrived being around children who had the same struggle because I knew how to get them to calm down. And so the second year they put me in the behavior support classroom, but that was still a lot. You know what I mean? It was just a
But
lot,
you
but
did it. Like
I did it.
I
I
don't
did
think
it.
you. Like I don't like
Yeah.
anybody, everybody listening in, educators, anyone working in any CS, any behavioral support classroom, any classrooms where children are just are dealing with a ton of social emotional
Yeah.
needs, and they just need a lot more attention. It takes a strong teacher to be in that classroom day in and day out, and
Yeah.
to the building that it takes, the building of the relationship with that
That's
child,
the most
and not
important
just
part.
with one child, but with
Right.
all the children within it, and they each have a different something that you need to connect with, and you have to dig
Yes.
into it. It's not immediate. And so, I remember watching you with, I mean, and of course, like we said before, Braxton and I worked together. And so watching him with these kids was like magic. And just the way he could get them to do what they needed to do. He like literally never raised his voice. He was always just involved and a part of so much. So to do that is a talent, and to have to walk away from it, as much as I know you loved it, because you loved it, because
I really
people don't
did.
understand, where especially working in education, especially working in elementary, those kids give, they're like Red Bull gives you wings. Those
Mm,
kids at that age, they give you wings. They make you feel alive.
yeah.
You
Seriously.
have energy. You have like, oh, let's go. And when you get that all the time, it feels so good. And to have to let that go it is hard. It's a hard, because I'm kind of in that same place where I kind of had to take a break from education, but I knew that taking a break wouldn't be the stopping point. There will be other alternative routes,
Right.
but I knew there was going to have to be this time where I needed a break. And sometimes it's okay, educators, for us to take a break from anything. Take a break, take a step back. You need a coffee break, get you some coffee. You need to go to the bathroom, take a bathroom break. Get you a break, because we need it. But sometimes right now, especially in this day we're living in with COVID, and
Right.
and and how it's spreading and uncontrollably, and the problems that we're seeing, the deaths, just it is a huge cause, right? Especially today with a lot of our teachers leaving. And it's hard. It's hard. So to hear you and to know you is a different story. To hear you is to hear you, but to know you and to hear it really hurts my feelings too, because it's not easy to walk away. It's never easy. It's never
It
easy.
wasn't.
Never
And even you
easy.
saying what you said earlier, that's very humbling for me. Saying it was like magic watching with the kids. That's really where I found my stride, was at Houston Elementary, in especially in all those years on the early childhood hallway, and in the CES classroom. I'm gonna. It's so funny. Like I don't know. Well, I have a strong memory, so maybe not everybody is gonna remember it, their day in detail the way I did. But I remember my first day teaching middle school very vividly, and how I was like, I don't know if I can do this. And I found my stride. And on my first day teaching early child education, I didn't know if I could do that. I remember I got hired for that job. I was like, okay, cool. And Principal C was like, okay, I'm gonna put you on the early childhood wing. I'm like,
It's
I think I'm like, first
no.
of all, I'm a man. I'm like, okay, cool. Now I was like, okay, I'm with that. I seem trustworthy enough
Babies.
to be around kids. That's good. But I'm also thinking to myself, okay, not only am I a man, but I'm a man who hasn't really raised anybody younger than him at all. I'm the baby cousin. So it's like, if
Okay.
and my younger brother, I'm the oldest child, but my younger brother is only 14 months younger than me. So we're like a year apart, a
Mm-hmm.
year and 2 months to be exact. So it's just like, I'm thinking to myself, you want me to teach them? But
Yeah.
the advantage about but I found my stride like almost immediately. It was kind of crazy, and like they noted like, oh, you're doing really good. You're doing really good. And then by the end of the school year, Ms. Walton was like, I just want to say you did such a swell job with these kids. And I was thinking to myself, oh wow. And a lot happened that year too, because I was doing very well. And I was the same year a scandal about some dude abusing kids that came out. So like the fact that I was, for one, not doing that, and for two, like the kids were taking me so easily. I
Yes.
mean, but I took to them easily too. I was like, oh man,
Yes.
I really am a dad at heart. Because I remember being in high school and girls were like, Braxton, you make a great dad. And I'm like, what you mean? Like,
Like, where you get that
but then
from?
working with kids that young, that's really easy for me. Like it just comes naturally, like just that
Mm-hmm.
caring, and like they are emotionally needy. But I'm a man full of
Very.
emotions, and I like helping people with their emotions. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like
And
I
you
have a
were.
yeah, like
Oh, oh, you were.
that's my
I
favorite
mean,
part of the job, actually. In general, I like being a little therapist for the kids,
you
not just elementary.
did.
Even when I was teaching middle schoolers and teaching high schoolers in the summer. Like anytime there's conflict, I like to be a person around because I have big peer meter energy. Like I like to be an intercessory
Yes.
for people, prayer wise and in real life. Like I don't mind breaking up fights. I don't mind pulling kids to the side. Let's have a conversation. Adults, like I've always been a peacemaker.
You
You know what I
are.
mean?
You.
Yes.
Hold on, wait. I have to say, you are the biggest peacemaker. And I mean, you like,
Thank you.
people don't understand what it is to be a peacemaker or even to understand peer mediation, to mediate amongst people. And my goodness, sometimes again, working and teaching in an urban environment, there's a lot of things that happen naturally.
Yes.
There's a lot of aggression at times in
Yeah.
certain schools, that especially in the most neediest schools and the schools with that just need the best professionals, the best, just peer media. They need services, and I'm telling you, the
Yeah.
aggression is real because those services and needs aren't being addressed. And so to
Exactly.
have someone like you, I remember a child, no names, but I
Mhm.
remember just the terror and the emotional breakdowns that this child would have, and you'll pull out, like just pulling them out, taking them to the
Mhm.
side, and like, hey, listen, let's get it together. It was always amazing. I mean, to watch you work with the kids, you were in tune with, yes, okay, you're dealing with an
Wow.
emotional crisis right now, but this is how we're gonna. These are some ways we're gonna get you down. Let's
Right.
de-escalate and let's move on so that you can be successful. And the kids respected you. They respected the hell out of you for that. They absolutely loved that you were in tune with them, that you didn't just throw them to the side or say, oh, well, go take a timeout, go sit in the library. You actually engaged. You came to their level. You were actively there to support them. And I'm sorry, there's not a lot of teachers that I can say that I've met that do that. There's not a lot of teachers that are willing, especially working in such a hostile environment. Sometimes it's so hostile. You just
Right.
you just try to stay in your lane because you don't want to cause any more,
Right.
shifts. So a lot of teachers just stay in their lane because they done been cursed
Yeah.
out by a parent or two. They've been attacked. They've, just so many stressors. And so they just kind of stay in their lane and just throw it to administration or, security or whomever. But you always can't, you went right to the fight, and you are literally the fireman, the MS
It's
services.
very humbling. Thank you.
You are all of that because you truly cared about the kids. And I hate to say it, I hate to see that you've gone. I really do. I really do hate that we've had this pandemic and it's pushed a
Yeah.
lot of our great educators out of education, out of the classroom, because teaching takes great people, takes great patience, and takes great wisdom. And you have all of
Right.
that,
Thank you.
all
Wow.
of that. You
Wow.
are like,
Thank you.
y'all don't understand. This my bro, man. I listen.
Roll around.
This is my, yeah. These are educators who we need, and we need to find ways to support these educators before they walk away, because there's a lot of great educators who are walking away because it's not safe, because it's overly stressed, because the job is just weighing down on us, and it pushes us away. And I hear parents all the time, and people say, I could never teach, I could never do what you do, I could never
Yeah.
work with nobody kids, I could never.
They
Yeah,
can barely work with their own kids, and I mean that respectfully. I mean that respectfully. Because hey, I have a lot of friends who are already parents, and when the pandemic first hit, they were giving us educators, all the kudos. They were like, I don't know
Yeah.
they was like, Dad,
How
I've been
can
with my
you do
kids
it?
for a month. I thought about to throw them out to the street. I saw so many statuses like that. I was like, no.
Listen,
But
listen. When parents want to drop their kids off at your house, please, can you take them? Can you take them? You know you could take them. Oh, you leaving? You could take them. You know, I trust you. You could take
I
like when
remember
parents
that.
like,
That
wait a
was that you all
minute.
the time.
Right? Like, no, I'm
It's
not
that you
taking
all
your
the time.
child. Like, no, I'm not taking your child. Because you know, if you want to,
I'm out of
you
coffee.
could. And I'm just like, no, but the reality is not everybody can teach.
Right.
Not everybody can teach.
Not just teaching, but also because teaching is a gift. Like even in Christianity, I'm not gonna get too religious, but like even in Christianity, we talk about the fivefold ministries. One of those ministries is literally called teaching. That teaching is a
Mm-hmm.
calling, and then there's different ways to teach. So, like for example, um, I know I have different callings in my life, but I know like I'm being in middle school, like when I first felt the calling of teaching, literally, and I know I have a ministry, if you will, teaching and inspiring young black men,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then I actually got into the industry itself. Now I'm a full grown man. I'm saying like, okay, well, actually, that's definitely a calling, but I also have an example set for the young ladies as well. And
Mm-hmm.
they respond to me easier. I say, I wonder why they respond to me easier. I'm like, oh, because I have a high emotional intelligence, and the female gender is just easy to read overall. Whereas a lot of young men, they don't understand their emotions, and that's where I come in, brother. Because
Oh
I want to
yeah,
help you
right.
understand your emotions. I want to help you understand your emotions so you can calm down and learn.
Like,
Like, let's talk it
you,
out. Why are you
yeah,
angry? Why do you think you're angry? Is it that deep? It's probably not. But if it is, let's get to the root. Let's water it. Let's help it grow into
exactly.
something. Let's help it grow into something productive.
You were
You don't want you don't
called.
want you don't want them thorns to choke you now. You don't,
Exactly. But you
come
were
on
called.
now.
But I love that. I love that you said that. And I think it's important that we mention this again. If you are an educator, if you are an educator, instructor, teacher, whatever you want to be called, I like educator. Regardless, it is a calling. It's not just a job.
Right,
It is you when you get the feeling, it really and not just when you get the feeling to teach, but when you actually are doing it, when you're actually caught up in it and living that life, you
right.
realize that it's a calling, that it was meant for you. Like this is, I fit
Literally.
perfectly here. Like I fit
Yeah.
perfectly here. Like,
Destined.
oh wow, this is
Yeah.
great. Yeah. I could do this forever
Right.
until COVID
Literally.
hit and everybody died. Like, no, I can't do this no more.
Right. And the thing too, very briefly, I think what scared me more than anything, sis, was the fact that I'm thinking to myself, just off basic logistics,
Mm-hmm.
um, I'm like, these parents send their children to school when they're sick anyway.
Anyway, as we know
So the chance
this,
of me getting COVID again if they go back in person, and this is the time when these parents didn't know what they're going to do. Maryland was already like, we're not going back until 2021. They already made that decision.
yeah,
We're not all of Maryland, but the county
the
has the PD
majority,
county.
yeah, the
Yeah,
majority,
and yes, the majority. You're right,
the
absolutely right. The
majority of
majority of the
Maryland,
state,
yeah.
but DC, in August of 2020, DC, DCPS in particular, they did not know what they were going to do. And I'm thinking to
Nope.
myself, if I could be in the classroom next week, first of all, my lungs are not even normal again. They're not.
Mm-hmm.
I was still wheezing for air weeks after, months after. Like I said, a
Mm-hmm.
2 month
Mm-hmm.
period. I didn't start breathing normally again until October. Even though I
Mm.
tested negative for COVID in August, I was good to go as far as like not spreading it because it was no longer in my system. My lungs were so negatively impacted.
Mm.
I lost
Wow.
one of my best friends the year after that because she got COVID. Her lungs never recovered, but she had asthma.
So
That's what,
but that's already problematic. So
that's what I'm saying.
and the fact that we do know that here, the funniest thing about teaching for anybody who doesn't know,
Mm-hmm.
the first year you teach, the first year, no, the first month we're coming back to school, most teachers are out at least within 3 weeks of that, because the students are coming back into the classroom with everything from home, with
Right.
every germ, with everything,
Literally.
and teachers. And I don't care where you go. This is a common fact amongst teachers, because we're working with children who are building their immunity and their bodies
Exactly.
learning to fight off all of these different uh, ailments and germs and everything. And so they are bringing
Yeah.
that bottle of science the human body to
Literally.
the school every day, and educators, adults who are in this close proximity to these children are the first to literally feel the attack. And so we already know that as educators, I'm going to be sick at least the first or the second week of school, not because I'm planning it, but because I know kids are coming back. I haven't been around kids this whole time I've been off on break. Now I'm coming back around children. They're
Mm-hmm.
going to bring me something. Same with COVID. We're going to get something. If one of
Right.
these kids have COVID, I'm getting COVID, period. Like it's going to spread. Everybody in a classroom is going to get it. It's a part of the classroom dynamics. Kids come to school with germs and it's dispatched throughout the whole classroom and everyone gets it, and that's just the way
Mm-hmm.
it is. So we know
Literally.
it's inevitable. It's inevitable. It's
Literally.
no way.
Especially in early childhood. My listen. My first year
Especially
teaching
with the
kindergarten,
babies.
man. Every adult, Miss Rutledge, Miss McKinney. What that was his first year too at Houston, and Erica, Miss Davis. She left education. That's my big sister too. It's funny because the women who I work with, who I literally look at sisters, you and her, y'all both Scorpios, so I think it's hilarious. But yeah, Erica, she works for the post service now. But we were the educators in there. It was three paraprofessionals, myself included, and then a lead teacher, Miss Rutledge, the CS classroom K through 2. When I tell you a particular child brought a virus that had half the class as far as the other children, but every adult sick,
Mm,
and me and Erica took it the hardest. I was out for like a week and a half
I'm
straight.
telling you. I'm telling you. Yeah,
It was bad.
what they their bodies is dealing with it from such like the human body is weird in itself. That's why we're not getting into science, but the fact that
Yeah,
children have to go through that phase of life, like all phases of life, but their
yeah,
bodies, especially in early elementary, from kindergarten to about fifth grade, I mean K to 5, is
yeah.
it's lights out. These kids are facing everything. Whatever comes into the classroom, one person brings it in today, 20 people have it tomorrow because that's how bad it's spread.
Literally,
So
for real.
super
Yeah,
spreaders can happen amongst kids and adults in the
yep.
classroom setting faster than anywhere else. So the fear for educators is just that. We know how bad it is. And we do know that parents do not take their kids and send them home. We do know that when
Mm-hmm.
it's time, they're going to drop them off at school and that's what it is. But
Mm-hmm.
anywho, before we go off
Yeah,
onto a whole nother conversation, because that's some other stuff we need to talk about later. We have just so many great podcasts coming up, so many great
yeah.
tidbits and just lessons that we've learned through education over the course of the years that we've worked together, worked with other educators, just working wherever as an educator. We have so much experience we want to share with you. And I just want to thank Braxton again, Mr. Morehouse man. I just really appreciate you for just coming, being vulnerable, opening up, telling us about your experiences, really, just letting us understand, what led you to education, but also the same things that have taken you away from it. And as hurtful as it is to hear, I appreciate you sharing, and I thank you again. If you guys would, when you see him, shout him out, clap him up, give him some love and some praise because we are all at a loss when great men, especially men, because we don't have education is dominated by women, and so when we have great men in the classroom who do such a phenomenal job, who work just their work ethic is just so it's bar none, just top of the line, and especially in urban environments, helping these babies who really need the most support, the most help. To lose one of these educators is a disadvantage for us. So just shout them out, give them some love, send them love. Where can they find you at? What is your social media handle, Mr. Dunmore?
Um, yeah. So it's Dawood underscore mood 362. So that's I'm probably saying a little. My pronunciation is not there, but it's Arabic for David. So, but it's DAWUD underscore MOOD 362. That's my Instagram handle.
All righty. So
And
remember,
Twitter, but I don't want to use Twitter. I need to start using it, but yeah.
Well, I'll make sure. Well, we're going to tag you, of course, to all of our pages. And of course, I will put it at the bottom of the screen. So by the time we
Yeah,
go through and actually do some edits, we'll put
for
that
sure,
there for you.
for sure.
But definitely follow him, give him some love, shout him out because we need great teachers. And he's an example, an exemplar of a great educator. So
That's very humbling.
thank you for
Coming from
joining
you,
us.
because you're that. Like you were like
Nah,
the star at like Houston, like for real. You were though,
don't tell
and well
nobody
deserved. It was well deserved. I don't give a dang. It was
we,
deserved though. You working behind though. I'm not saying you're the only star. I can name a few.
yeah, there was
I
we
love
had a
Houston,
lot of
but
celebrities. We had a lot of
you were
celebrities.
part of, yeah, like you were, yeah, like come on now. You were
We had
dedicated
a
in a different
team.
way that other educators um were and weren't. And I want to emphasize were because I never worked anywhere like Houston, man. I miss it. Give me crying.
Yeah.
But it was so many dedicated educators there, and you were one of them. I mean, after hours till 6:30, just like Miss Brown, who done retired after how many decades.
Yeah. Oh,
Her
yes.
story is beautiful because
Yeah,
she
I know. I
taught one
can't
of the
wait to get
educators
her.
there.
Oh, I can't wait to get her on here because she is
You know
just.
she was Miss Point is a pre-K teacher, right?
I know. I know. Let's not do
Legendary.
her. Like,
Oh, my bad. Oh, I'm sorry. That's a blessing, though.
it
I'm
is
sorry.
a blessing
In
because
perspective,
she's
that's a
we're gonna
blessing.
get her on here. Listen
Yeah.
up. If you're listening, we're gonna get you on
That's
here
what I'm talking about.
because we definitely want to make sure that we share great educators. We
Yeah.
highlight great educators because here at Day One's production, educators are the day ones. We
Yeah.
are the bee's knees. We are everything sweet and spice. We are it. And so it's time for us to celebrate ourselves. It's time for us to band together globally. This is a global movement, educators. It's time
Yeah.
for us to make the changes that we need, but we have to speak up and we can't be scared anymore. We can't throw
Right.
rocks and hide our hand. It's time for us to speak up to see the changes that we want. So of course,
Absolutely.
educators, make sure you like, follow, and subscribe to all of our social media platforms. I have links in the bio. Please make sure you like and follow Mr. Braxton Dunmore. Shout him out, give him some love. And until next time, my day ones, the mic